when you click the link above the screencast, it will bring you to this Rossmann chance applet for one variable with sampling. This is actually an applet to show the sampling distribution of sample means. So what I want to do is I want to change my data list just to the Gettysburg address. So here's a population. It is the Gettysburg address, and it has the length of each word here. Okay. So you could see that there's a histogram, okay, showing the lengths of the words and then the frequencies, and it gives you the mean to be about 4.295 and the standard deviation and the population size. So there's 268 words in the Gettysburg address. Notice the shape of the distribution. Some might argue that it's slightly skewed to the right. Others may argue that it's somewhat symmetric. Now, if you click this Show Sampling Options, okay, what we're going to do is draw repeated samples from this population of the same size, and then we're going to plot the means of our samples. Okay. So if I have the sample size is default set to 10, and I'm only going to take one sample just to show you. So I'm going to draw a sample from this population here, and you can see that my 10 words are to, brought, birth, us, or nation, here long, and cause. And the lengths have been recorded for those 10 words in this histogram to the left, but the mean of 4, okay, the average length of those 10 words is 4, and then that 4 gets plotted in the histogram to the right. Okay. So I'm going to repeat this. I'm going to draw another sample. You can see the 10 words that were selected. Here's a dot plot of the 10 words. The mean is 4.1, and you can see that the mean is plotted 4.1 on the histogram to the right. So I'm going to draw a few samples so you get an idea of what's happening. Okay. And each time the mean of the sample is being plotted on the histogram to the right. This had a mean of 4.6, then you could see the 4.6 is here. To speed things up a little bit, because we want to get an idea of what this histogram looks like, I'm going to increase my number of samples to, let's do 12. So I'm going to take 12 samples of size 10. The most recent sample will be here, but if you notice, there were 10 blocks added to the histogram on the right. So I'm going to draw 12 more samples. I'm going to do this a few times so you can get an idea of what the distribution is going to look like. You want to explain to your students that the mean of the sampling distribution, okay, here it's 4.3, will approximate the mean of the population. The more samples you take, the closer the sampling distribution's mean will approximate the population mean. And it's important to explain to your students that this mean here, this population mean, is rarely known. Okay, but we do have a finite population, so it's a quite small population, so it's easy to calculate this mean. But stress to your students that if this mean is not known, by taking repeated samples of the same size from the population, we can estimate the population mean. So I'll take a few more samples just to show you the shape. No matter the shape of the original distribution, okay, the original population, the shape of the sampling distribution of the means will always be unimodal and symmetric. To emphasize that point even more, you could change your original population. So instead of working with the Gettysburg address, you could select population 2 here, which has a very skewed right distribution. So I think we're talking about the average, or the number of hours of sleep each night. So I'm going to again just draw one sample of size 10. Okay. Here are the people that were selected from the population size. I believe that says 18,000. Okay. Here are the 10 people that were picked. the mean is 8.1, and just like before, the mean is plotted, the sample mean is plotted in the histogram to the right. To speed things up, I'll take 20 samples, and you can see that the 20 means are plotted on the histogram to the right. I can keep drawing the repeated samples, and this is a fact that's going to surprise most of your students, that even if the original population is skewed to the right, the distribution of sample means will always be unimodal and symmetric. Notice how the mean of the sampling distribution is 8.035, and that closely approximates the mean of the population, 7.999. The more samples you take, the closer we will get to approximating the true population mean. There's also other populations. If you wanted to show your students a uniform population, it's going to do the same thing. If I'm drawing the samples, eventually this histogram will be unimodal and symmetric, no matter the shape of the original population. Okay. It's also important to explain to your students that the standard deviation of the sampling distribution will be smaller than the standard deviation of the original population. And you can talk about how we find this standard deviation, which would be a sigma divided by the square root of n, which is the population standard deviation divided by the square root of the sample size.